Let's now complete Lesson 1, Rational Numbers. We said that a decimal is a rational number if I can write it in the form of A over B. So any decimal that can be written in form A over B, or in other words in the form of a fraction, is a rational number. We have two types of decimal that can be written in the form of A over B: terminated decimals and recurring decimals. What is terminated decimals? Terminated decimals is a decimal that has an end. What is the meaning that a decimal has an end? Simply, I can count how many decimal places is inside of this decimal. So for example, if I looked here at half, 3 over 4, 5 over 8. Let's go and count the decimal places. In half, I have only one decimal place. In 3 over 4, I have 2 decimal places. In 5 over 8, I have 3 decimal places. So it was easy to count and know exactly how many decimal places is there in my decimal number. How to know if a fraction is a terminated decimal or not? Simply, if I have any fraction having a denominator of 10, 100, or 1000. This is going to be a terminated decimal. Any fraction over 10, 100, or 1000, or its denominator is 10, 100, or 1000, it's going to be a terminated decimal. Also, if I found any fraction having a denominator of 2, 5, 4, 25, and 125. Also, those fractions are going to be a terminated decimal. Any fraction, its denominator is one of those numbers, is going to be a terminated decimal. Even if I find beside of those numbers zeros added, still they are going to be terminated decimal as well. Let's go now and see what's a recurring decimal. A recurring decimal is simply a repeated decimal. What is the meaning of a repeated decimal? Repeated decimal means that I don't know exactly what is the end of this decimal, and it has a number inside the decimal that has been repeated for an infinite number of times. So let's now, for example, go and write on our calculator 1 over 3. Press equal and then convert it from a fraction to decimal from this button. It's equal to 0.333. The 3 is repeated. How can I write this decimal? Easily, we are going to put it in a notation of 0.3, and then I am going to add a dot above the 3, meaning that the 3 is repeated. The same way goes, for example, if I have the fraction 5 over 9. 5 over 9 is equal to, change it to decimal, 0.5, and the 5 is repeated. How can I write it? I will write 0.5 and I will put a dot above the 5, meaning that this 5 is repeated. Let's take the last example for a recurring decimal. 19 over 33 equal, change it to decimal, 0.57, and this 5 and this 7 are repeated. So I'm going to write it as 0.57 and then add 2 dots, one above the 5 and the other above the 7. And this will give me the meaning that the 5 and the 7 are repeated. Let's go now to our school book, page 5. We are going to answer question B, C, and D. I would like you please to write today's date beside question number 5 and write classwork. Let's go now and start solving number B. In number B, which rational number 7 over 11 or 7 over 20 can be written as a terminated decimal? We said that to have a fraction written as a terminated decimal, I go and look for my denominator. And here we have a denominator of 11 and a denominator of 20. We said that any fraction with a denominator of 2, 5, 25, 4, 8, 125, even if there is zeros beside it, this is going to be a terminated decimal. So the right answer here is 7/20. Let's go for number C. Write a decimal for each rational number. So let's begin with the first one. Number 1 is 6/11. This is a rational number. How can I write it in a decimal form? Simply go to your calculator and write 6/11 and then equal and change it to decimal. 0.54 and this 5 and this 4 are repeated. So simply I'm going to write it as 0.54 and add 2 dots, one above the 5 and the other above the 4, to say that the 5 and 4 are repeated. Number 2, -3, 1/15. Let's go and check what is the decimal number for this rational number. To write a mixed number, simply press on Shift and the fraction button, and then -3, 1/15. Equal and change it to a decimal form. It's -3.06 and this 6 is repeated. So simply I can write it as -3.06 and add here above the 6 a dot to say that this 6 is repeated. Going now for number D. And before we start number D, we want to remember that an absolute value for a negative number is always the same number but positive without the negative sign. And that the absolute value of a positive number is the same number as it is. Let's go now and start to evaluate the first one. Absolute value of -3.5. We said that the absolute value of a negative number is the same number but positive. So it is 3.5. I know that 3.5 is equals to 3.5. So here I evaluated the absolute value of -3.5. Let's go for the second one now. Absolute value of 5/8. The absolute value of a positive number is the same number as it is, so it's equals to 5/8. Let's go now and see the decimal number for this fraction or for this rational number. 5/8 equal, change it to decimal, it's 0.625. So it's equals to 0.625. Let's go now for the third one. The third one is the absolute value of -0.37. We said that an absolute value of a negative number is the same number but positive, 0.37. And it's already in a decimal form. Let's go now for the fourth one. Absolute value of -0.2. Absolute value of any negative number is the same number but positive, so it's 0.2. The last one is the absolute value of -1/3, and we said that an absolute value of a negative number is the same number but positive, so I will have here the rational number 1/3. Here is a fraction, so I will go to my calculator and start finding what is the value of 1/3. Equal and change it to decimal. It's 0.3 and the 3 is repeated. So simply it's equal to 0.3 and I will put here a dot above the 3 to say that the 3 is repeated. I would like you now please to pause the video, open your classwork copybook and write today's date. Start solving this example and don't forget to write that this is a school book page 5, question number 5. Let's have now more example. Using a calculator, express each of the following as a rational number. In this example, he gave me the recurring decimal and he wants me to put it in the form of A/B. How can I do so? Let's take an example number A. 0.7 and this 7 is repeated. Open your calculator and start writing 0.7, and since this 7 is repeated, you are going to repeat it until of the end of the screen. And then press equal, and here is my rational number. So it's equal to 7/9. Let's go now for number B. 3.14, 3, and the 3 is repeated. Again, using the calculator, 3.14, and since the 3 is repeated, I will keep on writing 3 until the end of the screen. Equal, and here is my rational number. So it is equals to 943/300. Let's go now for number C. 9.3, and the 3 is repeated. So again, 9.3, keep on repeating the 3 till the end. And then press equal, it's 28/3. So my rational number is 28/3. Number D, 0.18, and the 1 and the 8, both of them are repeated. 0.18, and we will keep on repeating the 1 and the 8 till the end of the screen. Press equal, and you will have the rational number of 2/11. Again, I would like you to pause the video and go write this question in your classwork copybook, and then come back to complete the rest of our lesson. We said that a rational number can contain decimals, fractions, or percentage. How can I go and change from one of them to the other? Let's see. If I have a fraction and I want it in the form of a percent, simply I'm going to multiply this fraction by 100. So for example, if I have 1/4, this is a fraction. I want it in the form of a percentage. I'm going to multiply by 100. The answer is going to be 25, and I'm going to add to it the percent. But what about if I want to change a percentage to decimal number? Simply go and divide by 100. For example, if I have here 15%, and I want to find it in the form of a decimal number, then go and divide by 100, and you will have an answer of 0.15. If I have a decimal and I want it in the form of a percent, I am going to multiply by 100. And if I have a percent and I want it as a fraction, I'm going to put this percent divided by 100. Let's go now and have an example. How can I convert from one form to another? Write today's date beside question 7 in the school book, page 5, and let's begin. Write the following rational numbers as a decimal and a percentage. So already I am given a rational number, a fraction number. How can I write it in the form of a decimal, and how can I write it in the form of percentage? To write it in the form of a decimal, it's so easy. If you have just used your calculator, you are going to find it as a decimal, and then multiply it by 100 to change it to a percentage. Let's begin now with the first one. Number A, 1/6. 1/6, if I went to my calculator, 1/6 equal, change it to decimal, it's 0.16, and this 6 is repeated. So at the decimal number, it's equal to 0.16, and I'm going to put a dot above the 6 to say that this 6 is repeated. What about now if I want it in the form of a percentage? Simply go and multiply your answer times 100. Change it to decimal, so it's equal to 16.6, and this 6 is repeated, percent, equals to 16.6, and this 6 is repeated, percentage. Let's go now for number B. In number B, I have a mixed number, 2 1/2. It's so easy to find the decimal number without even using the calculator. It's equals to 2.5. To change it to a percentage, I'm going to multiply by 100, so it's equals to 250%. I want you now to pause your video, go and answer number C and number D by yourself, and then come back to compare your answers with mine. Let's begin now with number C. Number C, I have a mixed number, 7, 3/16. I'm going to go to my calculator and find the decimal number. We said to have a mixed number, press Shift and the fraction button. And then 7, go to the side, 3/16 equal, and then press on this button to have it in a decimal form. It's equals to 7.1875. I want to change it to a percentage. To change a decimal to a percent, simply I go and multiply by 100. So 7.1875 times 100, as a result I will have a percentage equals to 718.75%. Let's go for number D. Number D, -3/20. Even if it's a negative fraction, I'm going to use the same steps. I would like you now to pause your video, go and answer question number 7 in your classwork copybooks, and don't forget to write today's date and write that this is school book, page 5, question number 7. And then come back to complete our work. Let's have more practice now. Write the following rational numbers as decimals and as percentage. I would like you to pause and go and answer the 4 questions by yourself, and then come back and compare your answers with mine. The first one is 35/7. 35/7 is equals to 5. So now, to change it to a percent, I'm going to multiply this 5 by 100, and I will have now an answer equals to 500%. Number B, 16/3 is equals to 5.3, and this 3 is repeated, so I will put a dot above it to say that the 3 is repeated. Then I'm going to multiply by 100 to get my percentage. It's going to be equals to 533.3%. But don't forget that the 3 is repeated. Number C, 1/4 is equals to 0.25. And to change it to a fraction, I'm going to multiply it by 100 and have an answer of 25%. The last one is 4/10, and 4/10 is equals to 0.4. Multiply 0.4 by 100, and I will have now 40%. Check your answers now, and if you have any problem, just please correct it and answer it in your classwork copybooks. Do you remember in primary 4, when you said, for example, if I have half, I can have other fractions that's equal to the same fraction, and we used to call it equivalent fraction. Any rational number can be written in the form of another rational number equal to it by applying the following property. The value of the rational number a/b does not change if the two terms are multiplied or divided by an integer which is not 0. Let's have an example here. If I have this half and I multiply the numerator and the denominator by 2. As a result, I will have a new fraction here, which is 2/4. And this 2/4 is still equal to the fraction half. Now, let's go and multiply this 2 by 3 and also the 4 by 3. I must multiply the numerator and the denominator by the same number. I will have another fraction now, which is 6/12. And still, 6/12 is equals to 2/4. And also, it's going to be equals to half. So it's so easy. Multiply and divide the numerator and the denominator by the same number, and as a result, you are going to have a fraction equal to the original fraction which was given. Let's go and have more example on this. I would like you to open your binder, page 2, and write today's date on it. We are going to solve question number 1. Write 3 rational numbers such that each of them expresses each of the following rational numbers. So here I have rational numbers and he wants me to write 3 other rational numbers or 3 other fractions that have the same value of the given. How can I do so? Just by multiplying the numerator and the denominator by the same number or even divide it. Let's take the first one as division. The first one is negative 48 over 36. How can I bring rational numbers equivalent or equal to this one? Simply, I want to multiply my numerator and my denominator by the same number or divide both of them by the same number. In this case, let's, for example, divide here by 2. Divide my numerator by 2 and my denominator by 2. I will have a fraction which is equals to negative 24 over 18. Let's now go and have our second fraction by dividing the numerator by 2 and the denominator by 2. And I'm going to have a new fraction which is negative 12 over 9. By dividing again the numerator by 3 and the denominator by 3, I'm going to have the third fraction, which is negative 4 over 3. And here are my 3 fractions which are equal to the given one. Let's go now for number 2, 1 and 1/4. 1 and 1/4 is a mixed number, so first we should change it to an improper fraction. We said that to change to an improper fraction, first put your denominator as it is, and then multiply 4 times 1, it's equal to 4. And then add 1 to it, so it's 5 over 4. How can I find a rational number equal to this one? Let's, for example, go and multiply it by 2 and multiply the denominator by 2. As a result, I will have a fraction equals to 10 over 8. Is this the only fraction which is equals to 5 over 4? Of course not. Let's, for example, multiply the numerator by 3 and multiply the denominator by 3. And as a result, I will have a fraction of 30 over 24. Let's go now for the third one. Multiply up by 2 and down by 2, both the numerator and the denominator. And you will have now a fraction equal to 60 over 48. What about number 3? Number 3 is a decimal number. So first we should change it to a fraction. 0.2 is 2 over 10. How can I find a rational number equal to 2 over 10? Simply go, for example, and multiply the numerator by 2 and the denominator by 2. As a result, you will have 4 over 20. Let's now go again and multiply times 2 and times 2. And I'm going to have now 8 over 40. What about the third fraction? For the third fraction, let's, for example, multiply by 3 and multiply by 3. And my new fraction is going to be 24 over 120. Number 4 is also 2.5, which is a decimal number. How can we solve it? First, we are going to change it to a fraction. 2.5 is equals to 25 over 10. Let's, for example, now divide both of them by 5. My new fraction will be 5 over 2. To have another equal fraction, multiply, for example, the numerator and the denominator by 2. And I will have now 10 over 4. What about if I want to have a third fraction? For example, let's multiply up by 10 and down by 10. And I will have my third fraction equal to 100 over 40. Now, I would like you to pause your video, go and copy question number 1 in your binders, page 2. And don't forget to write today's date and write beside question 1 classwork. Complete the following. Number 1, quarter is equal to what percent? We said that if I have a fraction and I want it in the form of a percent, simply I go multiply it by 100. So as a result, I will have 1 over 4 equals to 25%. Let's go for number 2. Number 2 is the absolute value of negative 0.4. We said that an absolute value for a negative number is the same number but without the negative sign, a positive number. And to change a decimal to percentage, we just go and multiply by 100. Absolute value of negative 0.4 is equal to 40%. Let's go now for number 3. The number 2.653 approximated to the nearest tenth. We know that the 6 is my tenth. It will be approximately equal to 2.7. Number 4, the number 3.5, and this 5 is repeated, approximated to the nearest tenth. My decimal is 3.555, and so on. The 10th digit is the 5. Let's go now and look for the number to its right. It's 5, and we said that 5 is a strong number and it will give 1. As a result, I will have here approximately equal 3.6. Question number 7. Put each of the following numbers in the simplest form. And this is such an easy question. We're just going to write our fractions on the calculator and find the simplest form. Negative 24 over 36. And then press equal and you will have your answer in the simplest form, which is going to be negative 2 over 3. Let's go now for number 2. And again, we are going to write it on the calculator. 45 over 20 equal, and you will find that the simplest form for this fraction is 9 over 4. Now we have finished today's lesson. I would like you please to copy question 6 and question 7 in your binders. And that's all for it today. Thank you, Prep 1, and have a nice day.